Good day to everyone. My respect and greetings to my dear panelists, Dr. Karina Pena, Professor Evelyn Dayrit, and Sir Jonathan Ulit. To my thesis advisor, Dr. Arnelio Valerio, my paper's English critic, Professor Danica Marcelo, our statistician, Dr. Mini Lianco, to our chair, Dr. Jasmine Villanueva, and to our college dean, Dr. Elmer Calaguas. Hello po. So, as you can see in my presentation, I am actually having my video recording, and this is actually a presentation for my final defense under the program Masters of Arts in Education, major in English, as presented to you, of course, yours truly, Miss Eunice A. Calaguas. So let's start the presentation proper. So the revised title of my presentation or of my paper or study is Reading Performance of Senior High School Students, Basis for the Development and Evaluation of Schema-Building Reading Activities. And of course, to have a recap or a background about my study, let's have a quick review about the current study on what it is all about. Of course, the goal is actually we have two main goals for this study. The first one is to develop a reading material that aims to aid the struggling readers in the senior high school level. And of course, this study aimed to know whether the developed material has significantly improved the participants' reading skill. And so, as the title says, this current study is anchored to schema theory, which also is the theory of this study on what it is all about. Schema theory, it's actually introduced by Frederick Bartlett, as cited by Rumelhart 1980, posits the readers employ past knowledge to understand and learn from text. It is predicated on the idea that a book does not have its meaning. Instead, it teaches readers to make sense of what they already know. Students can utilize the schema theory to help them understand a book from a broader perspective. Consequently, it is impossible to overestimate the relevance of schema theory in gaining a better understanding. So I believe this is much beneficial to senior high school students in terms of their reading comprehension, as the theory itself says that we employ the past knowledge, and of course everyone has a past understanding about a certain level of object or aspect that we learn from the text. So this developed material is actually about schema building reading activities for senior high school students. And to also have, hang on, all right, and also have to and also to have a better understanding about the research problems or the SOPs, statement of the problems. Let's have a recap of them. I have four research problems in my study. The first one is what is the reading performance before and after the schema-based reading activity, or the SBRA? The second SOP is there a significant difference between the participants' reading performance before and after SBRA or SBRA? The third one is how may the reading intervention material for struggling readers be designed? And lastly, how may the reading intervention material be validated in terms of its content, its design and format, and its pedagogical aspect? So these were all broken down into or listed down into this kind of format to better understand and to better um, equip ourselves when it comes to what the research problems are. But definitely, this format is different in terms of the APA 6 format that we have in the paper. So I have 4 research problems that were answered during the course of this study or the conduct of the study. And so also a glimpse of the methods that I employed or utilized. So the following were incorporated in the development and evaluation of the reading material. For the evaluators, I had 6 in total, 3 master teachers in English from different schools, and also 3 teachers who are handling struggling readers. So I have chosen 3 teachers in my school because I believe that they actually are the ones who handle the participants as well. So they were very significant in this study. And when it comes to the process of developing the material, the least learned reading competencies were determined through the administered pretest, which are vocabulary, fluency, and of course, comprehension. And upon the distribution of the administered pretest, I was able to determine the least competencies or competencies. I'm sorry, competencies of of reading. So for your basis about how I was able to compute or to come up with the least learned competencies, it is actually attached in the manuscript. And after the administration of the pretest, the basis of schema building reading activities were from the least learned reading competencies, of course. And after that, I developed the material through anchoring the activities with the I would call it schema building reading activities. So the schema building reading activities were embedded in the developed material. And after that, the evaluation took place. And after the evaluation, I had the post test for the failed or struggling readers. And so to our main event in this discussion, I have the results, discussion, conclusion, and recommendations. So take note, I just incorporated all 3 of these in one slide to better answer each SOP. So for SOP number 1, what is the reading performance before and after SBRA or the schema-based reading activity? So as you can see on the table, we have this table over here wherein we have the reading scale, the frequency before, and of course the percentage of that, and on the other side we have after the data after the implementation of SBRA, we have the frequency and the percentage. So for table number one shows the reading performance of the participants before and after the implementation of schema-based reading activities. Based on the table, a total of 39 students took the pre-reading assessment, wherein 24 or 61.54% are instructional readers, and only 2 or 5.13% were identified as independent readers. However, 13 or 33.33% were seen as failed readers, and they were the ones who undergone the intervention phase, which is the implementation of SBRA. Um, as for the conclusion, the findings of the study show that out of the 39 participants in the pre-assessment, 13 were identified as failed or struggling readers. And as a recommendation for that, the assessment can also be determined not only to Tech Voc students or the technical vocational students, but also to other strands or tracks in grades 11 to 12. So meaning to say it's not only limited to the aforementioned participants, but can also be employed to different strands, tracks, and even grade levels in the elementary and high school departments. Off to the second SOP, is there a significant difference between the participants' reading performance before and after SBRA? So here we will be comparing the before and after performance of the participants, and we will be, I'm sorry about that. So, and we will be trying to look if there is a significant difference before and after their performance. So as you can see, table 2 presents the difference between the participants' reading performance before and after SBRA. T-test of independent mean was used to generate the difference between the two variables. With a t-value of negative 4.649, the null hypothesis, which was there is no significant difference between between the participants' performance before and after SBRA, is hereby rejected in the area of at 99.9% confidence level. This concludes that the results. This concludes that there is a high significance between the participants' performance before and after SBRA, and for the hypothesis, as I've mentioned a while ago, the null hypothesis is rejected. And so off to the next SOP, the third one. How may the reading intervention material for struggling readers be designed? So for this one, I have accumulated, or I have constructed the three stages, or identified the three stages in terms of designing the reading intervention material. It is divided into three: the input or the analyzing method phase or stage, the process or the designing stage, and the evaluating stage. For the input, the selection of the competencies to be included in the reading material were selected based on pre-test conducted to TechVoc grade 12 students of school year 2021 to 2022 in one of the public schools in Mabalacat City. And for the process, in terms of the designing the actual material, adapting to schema-based reading activities, the selection of exercises and lessons were integrated, adhering to the activation of vocabulary and comprehension schema. And for the evaluating, which was actually one of the main core, or the main aspects of this material, the evaluation of the schema-based reading material in terms of its content, design or format, and pedagogical parameters using the tool for evaluation rating sheet for DE and ODEL modules. So that is how I designed the reading intervention material for the failed or struggling readers. And off to the fourth SOP, which is entitled, which is actually about how may the reading intervention material be validated in terms of the three, which are the content, design and format, and pedagogical. So let's start with the content first. So as you can see on the table, we have the descriptive statistics on the validation of the reading intervention material in terms of content. So we have the following statement over here, and the frequency, meaning to say how many of the a total six total the total of six evaluators answered yes or no. So when it comes to the statement, we have five statements over here. So as you can see, actually majority, or like 90%, 99, like 90% of the evaluators agreed about the following statements. So six out of six evaluators believe that the material provides adequate information essential to teachers and students who will be utilizing it. Moreover, they agree that the content is presented clearly using understandable language suitable to the level of the target learners, and also the knowledge and ideas being presented in every unit are accurate, recent, and free from errors, using terminologies um, that suit the distinct characteristics of the target learners. However, one of the evaluators suggested that supplementary activities that are relevant to the main goal of the course is advised. So, as a conclusion, in terms of the content, the topics or lessons included in the material were very relevant and provides adequate information to those students who will be utilizing it. And as a recommendation, as I mentioned a while ago, it is suggested to provide more activities and that students may choose from. And also, this is the suggestion or recommendation of the researcher herself. For the for the second SOP, how may the reading intervention material be validated in terms of the format or design? So as you can see on the table, we have the presented data. So it is actually the descriptive analysis of the validated reading material in terms of the design or format. So again, six out of the six evaluators agreed that there is a proper spacing observed in between texts, sentences, and paragraphs, including margin and indentation to avoid congested page. Main topics or subtopic specific discussions and other important parts of the reading material are properly labeled for easy recognition, and it's properly organized and packaged in such a way that all the parts were complement rather with one another, and each part contains clear directions for students to follow. However, one evaluator believes that proper indentation and punctuations should also be considered. So as a conclusion, for the design and format, the material provided clear textual information, and the graphics used were motivating and relevant to the topics presented. Similarly, I have found a what do you call this one? A supporting article about this one. Blaise Jack. I hope I did not butcher his or her name. 2004. He or she emphasized how learners are visual, how students are visual learners. So therefore, it actually makes sense if the material or the realia or the visual aids and the other pictorial contexts, can be used to help students activate their background knowledge to understand the text, which is, of course, anchored to the schema-based reading activity. And as a recommendation, the researcher suggests to the future researchers to, find suitable designs as well, depending on the grade level. Like for instance, colorful illustrations for elementary pupils will be suitable for the um, creation of the similar material in terms of reading. And of course, the last one, how may the reading intervention material be validated in terms of its pedagogical aspect or parameter? As you can see on the last table here, we have the descriptive analysis of the validated reading material in terms of the pedagogical factor. Six out of the six evaluators agree that prior knowledge of students are properly assessed um, to bridge the gap between what they already know and what they have to know. Assessment tools were included to ensure the development of higher order thinking skills such as the critical and creative thinking. And the reading material also provides good feedback mechanisms so learners can regularly receive formative feedback on learning. For example, like they can track their performance, monitor their improvement, or test their knowledge. However, one evaluator suggested that objectives in the activities should be embedded. There should be objectives that had to be embedded as well in each activity. As a conclusion, the pedagogical aspect, the objectives of the material are well formulated, and prior knowledge of students are properly assessed to bridge the gap between what they already know. Um, as I've said, also, the material provides a good feedbacking mechanism. And as a recommendation, integrating schema-based reading of activities is of great help in assisting learners for reading comprehension. Moreover, teachers may put emphasis on the need of designing a reading material for failed or struggling readers. So that concludes the how the SOPs were answered through the tabulated data. And so for some additional comments from the evaluators, Sir Jasper from from senior high school of in Sapang Biabas resettlement, he said that reading material is well prepared and organized. He also mentioned about the graphics used in the reading material is enticing to the eyes of the learners, and they will be motivated in reading the material. And when it comes to the content, the reading material is informative and abides with the needed competencies of the learners to develop their knowledge on said lessons. And all information in the reading material is relevant to the lesson and competencies. Moreover, Ma'am Diana from Dallas or from Doña Asuncion Lee Integrated School, um, quote unquote, mentioned about that's the strategies were organized, arranged in a logical and sequential order. The schema building procedures were described in sufficient detail, each section composed of examples. Questions are reflective. The material also includes a variety of texts that the students would find useful. And lastly, from according to Ma'am Estrella Brady from Mawake Resettlement High School, she said, quote unquote, may I request for a copy of this material as we will also be utilizing this to our learners here at Marsh. And she also mentioned about this can be a best practice of the school, like an innovation that can be proposed in the division office to actually help um, aid the struggling readers that we have in the division. And so to have a glimpse and also to show you how I conducted and how I developed rather the SBRA material. This is the actual material of that I have developed. I'm sorry about the order. It has to be the schema based first before the table of contents. Probably it's just how the way how I pasted them. It was kind of deconstructed. Well, the front page is actually on the right side. That is the front page of the material, as it says, schema building reading material. So it actually mentions what's inside, and there's a brief um, overview about what to expect inside. And of course, on the left side, we have the table of contents. And continue as a continuation, of course, it is just vital to define what schema schema reading is. So I have provided a short background of that, and also additional background knowledge in terms of how schema affect the reading comprehension. And when it comes to the concept definition map, I actually have provided like series of activities, like schema building activities for this material. One of them is the concept definition map and what it is all about, techniques on how to, and why there's a need to use concept definition map as a form of schema building. And those are actually they have exercises as well, an example and an exercise that would activate the schema of the learners. um, so that's another exercise for that. And then another activity is close reading, and again, same format with the previous one with the concept definition map. They have explanations and annotations, and of course also exercises that students can practice, and also some techniques on how to close a read. All right. And then for the one of the main activities here, it's like during reading, activating schema questioning. So I have incorporated, I think, I believe two short stories in here. So the first one is The Gift of the Magi. And there's actually like two ways on how to activate the schema when it comes to vocabulary and comprehension. um, for the first one, the yellow part talks about the vocabulary, activating schema vocabulary. So there were series of passages from the story, and then there were questions that talk about like schema building questions about the passages. Same thing that actually that focuses on the vocabulary itself, and for or per se. And for of course the green one, the right side on the right side, it's about activating schema that talks about comprehension. So there were series again similarly with vocabulary, but they focus more on the comprehension. So they do not have words or vocabularies to unlock the meaning of, but instead, excuse me, those are actually passages on how to derived from the short story. And there were like series of questions that would activate their schema. And for okay, so I think I just again I kind of like there was a deconstruction of or deformation of the pictures here, but the in story goes first on the left side, and um, the passage number two, passage two will actually go should go to the right side. But anyway, for the in story, I've provided again like a background since it's about schema as well, like a short background of what the story was about, like what Magi was like about Christmas, like that. And then as a short comprehension checkup about about the story, I have provided four questions in here to also somehow test or to know whether they learned something from the schema activities, schema building activities. And then aside from one story, of course, the second one I have provided um, is actually another story, short story. God sees the truth but waits. Um, same format with the other one, same organization, activating schema vocabulary, and we also have the activating schema comprehension. So again, there's also an in story about this one, and a comprehension checkup afterwards. So those are the activities embedded in the schema based reading activities, and if you notice, they all activate the prior knowledge of students or background knowledge of students when it comes to certain passages. And so, of course, the references that I used in terms of crafting and developing this material was also included on the last page. So this is actually the how the material looks like. Okay, and thank you for listening, and I hope that you were able to you were enlightened on the discussion, and kind of like you were able to have a grasp of what my study was all about. Thank you so much for listening. And again, this is Eunice Calaguas.